Check 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, here we go. This is working now. There we go. I think if I turn that up and maybe, let me see here. If I run this thing. I'm just thinking out loud. How's everybody doing? Hey, thanks, Jenny. How's everybody doing today? Figure out what's going on here. Is everybody having a good day? How we doing? Good. Did you get some sleep? Yes. Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Just thinking about the direction I'm going in here with this track. And so let's let the room see who's going to show up first before I start getting into this. See if we can get a couple more people in the room. You know, it's Hank, come here. Hanky. Hey, Hank. Your ice cream? There's an ice cream. Giving Hanky an ice cream. So I was just focused for 3 hours. I was working on this, so I've just got to kind of come out of it for a second. It's a very, very focused state of consciousness. I am very focused. I'm very, after about 15 or 20 minutes of doing something, you go into a higher state of focus. They usually say, the psychologists say it takes about 30 minutes to get into that state where you are able to think faster, make decisions faster, and be more effectual, be more productive. So I really get far down into that zone. I'm not sure what you mean there, Pauline, but it's good to see you. I've been Tahoe, was watching Iceland this morning. There's Liz. Hey, Liz. How'd we sleep last night? Much better. I took a couple of melatonin before I went to bed, so I didn't wake up in the middle of the night, which was good. Can you see me? Is it bright enough in here? Is it bright enough, the picture, or do I need to turn a light on? Can you let me know? It's great. Okay, fine. So, I've been thinking about some things this morning. Earlier today when I got up. I think I might swing back over to the other site we stream from, the competitor, and set up a stream for that channel to get prepared for a contingency to move over there. So that, I guess what I'm saying is if you have not followed me on our other streaming, what I'm saying is not TikTok, the other one. You might want to become a follower over there on that platform, because I'm going to be going live from time to time over there, and it's going to be sporadically. Exactly. Good job, Jenny. It's going to be sporadic, and when I'm over there, I won't be restreaming here or anywhere else. It's going to be just that channel, so that I can start to be present for people in that chat room as well. It's not going to interfere with our schedule. It's not going to interfere with anything we've created here. It's just I've got to start getting that plane ready to fly, and that's going to require camera orchestration here and locking in scenes in my streaming OBS software and things like that. One of the things that's exciting about that particular style of streaming is that it's not portrait style, it's landscape, and it doesn't have stuff scrawled all over the screen, so you can really kind of get into seeing into the world of a creator a little bit more, and not having to look through all kinds of stuff happening while you're trying to focus and watch something. Where I just barely got Insta and FB, which one? Neither one of those actually. YT is what we're talking about. If I say it out loud, the algorithm will pick up on it, and that's the talk of the town these days between TikTok content creators, is what is going on with this algorithm and all this stuff. Stuff being suppressed, stuff being messed with and things. So anyway, we're all trying to figure it out. I'm glad you've joined us, Pauline. It's always nice to see a new friend take in what we're offering here. As a matter of fact, let me set up my other screen here. Yeah, I've got all kinds of plans. I am going to be releasing every week now. Right now, the target for release day is Saturday. I don't know how I feel about that just yet, because it makes sense to be able to point people directly to celebrating a premiere where we listen to for the first time in its first iteration together as a group, and then it's immediately available after that on my music sites. That said, theoretically, Friday might be a great time to release a new piece of music instead. But for now, we're gonna keep it on Saturday for the moment. Let's see what we got going on here. How's Heather doing today? How's Violet doing today? How's Jenny doing today? How's your little pup-ups, Jenny? Pauline, where are you joining us from? What part of the world are you in? Babs Bunny, hey. Liz, we're working on your favorite track. I hope it's still your favorite track. Of course, one of my concerns about doing something like this is that the luster might wear off when you hear something as many times as I have to do it. So I'm going to be working on different tracks in session. It's not always going to be Tahoe, but to get the workflow going here the way I needed to, this is how I chose to go about this. Okay. What is the story of this piece of music? Where did it start and how did it get here? Okay. So what is here? Here we have the entire production in parts 1 and 2 as it exists right now. And it's boiled down to much more basic concepts right now. Whereas before you saw hundreds and hundreds of these things on the screen. Now we're down to the audio, and there has been smart consolidation of audio that has taken place when it's one thing like, let me show you. You see this is a string section of an orchestra. That yellow line comprises 12 violinists. This ochre line comprises 10 violinists in a section in an orchestra. This is the sound of the viola section, and it's in two parts. We have a solo violist over top here, and then we have the rest of the viola section of the symphony orchestra, comprised of 8 to 10 people. It depends. Then here, again, we have, moving on to the cello, we have a solo cello line, and we have the ensemble of cello here in front of us. That's about 8 people. And then, of course, we have the big old string basses. Now, way back when this song was created, many moons ago, and I should probably move my chat screen out here where I can actually pop one eye on it occasionally while I'm running the mouth. Just hang on. I'm showing you this. You have nothing to worry about. The track is going places. Oh, thank you. So, Texas. Happy Texas, Pauline. Okay, so let's look back here on the screen. Let's get my melon out of the way here a little bit. Oh, shoot. Hang on. If I move me here in the center and I try to keep things down in the center of the screen, that might be the best way to go about this. Again, this is the entire string, a section of the orchestra, the highlighted parts you see, and they range in color from dark red to yellow, violins 1, 2, violas, cellos, and double basses. But back when this song first started, this string section looked like this. Now, there's those same 5 pieces of color, but underneath them is 10 other tracks in some cases of digital production going on. So all of these tracks are what it took to create Violin 1. All of these tracks here are what it took to create Violin 2. All of these tracks are what it took to create the violas. And then we move on down to the cellos, and it's the same thing. This is the double basses. We can skip the cellos. That's fine. All of those tracks are what creates the bass line. Now that I've gone through, I can combine those into these audio files. But see, the thing here is what you have to understand is that there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into the digital part of this. You know, these are the notes of this particular line right here. Let me just unmute this. Hang on a second. I just want to show you this to give you a concept of the work that goes into this. You might think it's interesting to know. What is going on here? Hang on a second. Wow, hang on a minute. That moment when your keyboard just stops working for some reason. All right. Stand by. Okay. Having a technical difficulty here. Anyway. Those are the notes in that line. And when I go through the process of editing this, there's a lot of different elements that take place that make this thing come to life. See those lines down there? Those are volume changes. You see these orange lines at the bottom of the screen? This is expression as far as how hard the instrument is playing. These are all the digital things that I have to toy with until we get to the audio, and then these things all combine to form these audio files. But now in this phase of the practice is what we call the volume automation phase. And this starts by getting everything louder than it originally was. And then I go back in. I'm going to go ahead and hide these things. And that's what volume automation looks like. See all those squiggly lines? This is me doing nothing more than controlling the volume of what's happening in these tracks. Okay? And let's just take a quick listen. The point is to tell this story. That's interesting. Look at the back of that picture, right where my mouse is. That glowing area of light. It's really neat. Thanks, Babs. Thanks, Jenny. Now, I haven't done the work here yet. It's not going to have as much life. This is what I'm doing today, is this part. See, I haven't mixed this volume automation yet. This is just the flatline mix here now. See those flat yellow lines? And even it's getting softer now to the point where it's harder to hear. Okay, that's because the boosting process hasn't happened there yet. So what happens is there's different ways to make music, and this is where many times I found myself in direct disagreement with, for example, people who produce music who are DJs and dance music and stuff like that. So what typically happens is a production style that is top down, which means whatever it is you get, you pump it up and you blast it out of the speakers at volume, and then you move backwards from that because loudness is so very important. So even when they're listening to their mixes, they're listening to them with a mastering chain on in many cases, because that makes things loud, full, powerful, radio ready. Those kinds of things are the objectives of mastering. Me, on the other hand, I'm that kid putting the icicles on the Christmas tree one at a time. Standing back and looking at the tree. Let's put one here. Okay, good. Standing back, looking at the tree. Put an icicle here and an icicle there. The way Mom taught me to do. This may be a little bit tedious, but what happens is when I come into this phase of a project, everything is so heavily produced for effect that I am not trying to fill in gaps in the sound in my mix phase. I'm not trying to, that's a little too bright, that's a little too mellow, that's a little too harsh, that's a little too this, it's not enough that. A little too this, it's not enough that. That's the way a lot of mixing sessions get into. For me, I'm boosting levels that were already excellent relationships to begin with, so I can move through this phase faster, which is good news. I mean, I got the whole way out halfway through this piece on this very critical rebalancing, gain staging of volume, all the way here, what you see in the screen right now. That's halfway through parts 1 and 2, and I'm almost done. I'd say I'm probably gonna have another 2 hours in this to get this, because I like to work for about 45 minutes on automation and walk away. Because what happens is I'm listening. I'm listening to the relationships independently. Jace, from splurge to release, how many hours typically go into a track? Liz, I've kept track of that in the past. Sometimes if something is as simple as, easy as cake, it can take, from the time I splurge out a solo piano track to doing some edits, it can take anywhere probably from 10 to 20 hours. Sometimes a little less. On a solo piano track. On something like this, I would like to get to the point where I'm moving from splurge to release in a track of this magnitude in 40 hours or less. I would say that I'm probably still within that zone on this. The thing is I'm spreading those 40 hours out. So I'm working 2 hours on this, 2 hours on something else, an hour on something else, splurging with golden hour and having fun doing that, 2 hours a day. So things are tiered a certain way. This means that things are finishing all at the same time when they're in progress tracks. And this is a mechanism that I'm trying to put into place that will allow me to squeeze these tracks out once a week. So, I used to get into stuff that took a lot longer than that. I mean, just crazy 300, 400 track things and stuff like this. And I just, I'm a big believer in say it with less, mean it with more, to work better with smarter and let the music dictate to me what the size of the tracking is. The only reason the tracking got so large, when we say tracking, that means all the instruments, everything that we've done, all the unique parts, and sometimes you refer to these as layers. So how big that cake gets depends upon where the focus stays on a track. Focus moves off in a different direction, the purpose, that is. The focus shifts to match the purpose. So this is why I often find myself in a situation like this where having a solo piano version, the way I do like the solo piano version of this, is that it's its own world. I'm not thinking about this when I'm doing that. And I'm not thinking about that when I'm doing this. What I'm thinking about is a sensation that I was seeking something when I went to Tahoe. And that's why this opening part of this track is called Seeking right now. I'm using, so the nomenclature that I'm picking out here to craft these sections of this track reflects the purpose of what the music is doing. So here, I guess you would call this the opening. See that glowing thing at the top of the screen? That's this region from here to here. Now let's listen to that. You might want to turn your phone up a little bit because we're still not at full level yet. Okay, so that's the opening. And then somewhere in between that part that is highlighted here in the center of the screen to the left and this part that is highlighted on the right, we begin to move and the expression begins to shift a little bit, right? There's all this transitional nuance going on, and there's all these things that are working together to make this happen. But me, it's hard to appreciate this unless you can really put it yourself into my mindset. I'm not working back from a sound I hear out in the universe and creating all these things. What I'm doing is following an inspiration when it wants to captivate me or intrigue me, When you refresh your live, you see you are out of likes and your taps are not being counted. Interesting. So, as we shift into this part 2, I've changed the name. Opening, next vibe. Now I'm gonna come up with a better name for that. But what I'm trying to get across here, okay, and this was really early on, so I'll fix this right now, is that we're reinforcing the energy here. Completing the scene. So we've already said what we said once. Now we come into part 2. It's very soft. Very expressive. Now, I need to put a marker in here. Now there is a shift. And I look at this. Oh, oops. Don't do that. Come on. I look at this as finding. So we start out seeking. And now is this concept of finding. And it's not so much, it's a combination of some yearning desire, finding something, and something finding my yearning desire. There's movement towards this energy for me. I want to try to create this. I want to shift the mood so we sense a change of energy here. Okay, so when we come out of this part here that's highlighted, you'll see that shift when we move into that one. Here we're still seeking and asking. But there's something else I need to tell you. It's very important. Okay, so there's a concept I use in music pretty heavily like this, and it's tension release. Tension and release. Tension and release. And what I've created with this horn way up at the top is this noble call, but beneath that, in the string section, there's tension. The harmony, it's happening in one of two ways. One is harmonically. I've created dissonance, agitation in the string section. I've created a sense of agitation. Not severe. Agitation can usually make you think, oh, something terrible is happening. No, something can be mildly stirred up. Technically speaking, that's a form of agitation. So the strings are creating that energy under there, so that I get a dichotomy of expression taking place, and it leaves you feeling a little uncertain. Listen to it again. There. Is it reaching out through? Okay, now, shift of energy, as I said before. Listen for it. Which one, Alice? The strings still reach out, but they're getting along better. This is the sound of everything is going to be all right. Okay, so I'm going to stop that right there, and I'm going to move this marker forward where it belongs. So in music, we call this an exposition. When you have a music composition and there's some main underlying theme that is really at the forefront of what's going on, that is the thematic nucleus of a project, maybe, it's comprised of a motif and it has motion and energy. It's just a melody. This is the outset of the main melody of this whole thing. I play it on the piano when I'm playing the solo piano version, and it's now being illustrated here in the sound. So I'm going to mark that moment because that is a moment of contrast. It's a reflection of light. Light reflecting off the water, light coming down through trees in a wooded area, light bringing some warmth, some warm energy into this right here. It's like something saying, here I am, here you are, maybe. This is a large moment here. Now, why am I doing this? I'm telling a story that the music is telling me. I'm looking at these pictures. I'm remembering that day. I'm remembering what happened. I remember going live and telling you that I'm hearing this thing in my head. And what we have is what's happening here now. So I create the story up here in the timeline so that all of my moves in a mix are given direction. And the director is the music. What is the instrument carrying the melody? Loving Feeling asks. I'm not telling. It's a slide electric guitar. It's a slide electric guitar instrument that I have that I noticed had a really interesting relationship with this story here that's happening here. And I could see doing a version of this where I have a friend of mine who's an electric guitarist to do an actual solo electric guitar line. I'd like to do a version of that too. He's a very special guy. So, but this is working great. And an instrument that sounds like it's being put through a whammy bar. Yeah, well, it's pitching. That's what slide guitar is. That's why it sounds like a whammy bar. Kind of has a method of use that involves being able to pitch the strings in a similar fashion. Good ear there. Good ear. Alice gets five stars. You guys are all great at this. I love reading your interpretations, and I love expressing this to you and seeing clearly that you get it so well. Very, very cool. You all deserve 5 points. You really do. You're amazing. Every one of you. And Pauline says, yes, I know the feeling of a babbling brook in sunlight. You got it. So this, I'm marking clearly that this is an important moment in this mix. So as I look at my corresponding overall volume levels and I think about being good and loud and full in my production, I'm already leaving space to make sure that this is a moment that's packing some heat, okay, energy-wise. Listen to it, build up to it. That's a throw your head back moment. That's a See, I have these moments of incredible empowerment, and then humility usually steps in and keeps one of my feet down on earth, and music can do that. So when you hear this outlay of expression, it sounds very sure of itself, and then it kind of smiles at itself a little bit. And here. Shucks. See, now I'm at that phase of the mix because I've mixed up to this point right about here. Let's see where we are. Yeah, right about here. This is where I've got to pick this job up now and get out to the ending of part 2. And I'm going to do that today. I'm doing this today. Soon, this entire screen is going to look like these lines. And those lines will be telling this story up here. See, what happens is there's a process that happens here. And as I said to you, this is a string submix bus that's behind my melon right there. Let's move it actually down here. Okay, so these are the stringed instruments. So what happens is then when I close that bus, I'm going to click to close it. Now, all of those instruments inside of there, inside of that thing I just closed, are represented by this one volume line. So when I shift this one volume line, I'm now moving them up or down as one. You see? Same thing with this. This is the brass section. All these blue things. You know, when I get them where they need to be, then I can close that, and suddenly the entire automation is controlled by one line. This is the mixing into the mastering process. When we start talking, when you hear me using the terminology of finalizing a mix, that's what I'm going to be on, is those big broad lines. So that's the direction we're moving in. We're picking up speed. I'm happy with the speed with which I'm working. This is a more heavily involved track, so I've spread this out over a few weeks, but truthfully, part of it is this whole situation, and I've been going through getting into a workflow, is been the big challenge for me. I've had to basically reinvent how I live my life now to do this, because this is my work, and so therefore there has to be a schedule of that allows me to make progress on these tracks at a speed which has enough efficacy to provide for a weekly release. And I'm happy about that. How far we've come in this world as musicians, where we used to make one album a year. They say Mozart used to write a symphony in a single night without one mistake. Well, don't make the mistake of thinking I'm comparing myself to Mozart. I'm just saying, part of being brilliantly prolific is getting out of your own way. Those are tall words. You have to have a practice in place, and the key to building one is slow, consistent, constant changes, self-evaluation. You know what, though, Alice? When someone's sitting in there listening to my music, that moment of time we share. That 6 minutes, that 5 minutes. The world is moving only in that experience of what somebody gives it. When we, as Tony Robbins says, where focus goes, energy flows, and it's the most, I've said many times, his most powerful statement. That one of those statements, when you first hear it, you think you understand it, and then you really start to live it after a while. When will the new tracks be available as 1 minute to be making videos with? Okay, so this is a good question. I am choosing whether I'm going to distribute through my current distributor or switch to another one. Okay? Simultaneously, when something is released to Bandcamp, it has to be released to distribution at the same time. And until it is released to distribution, we only have this. So starting here this week, I'm linking the distribution to the releases that happen at the Bandcamp, so they'll be at all the streaming service providers, iTunes, Google Play, all that other stuff, right? It's very important. So when that happens, then TikTok gets a hold of it because they get it sent to TikTok as well. I have some concerns about some things regarding, maybe the fact that maybe I'm being violated for copyright violations on here because I'm playing my own music. I've talked to a few people, and when TikTok, okay, so here's what happens. TikTok and everybody, Google Play, Amazon, CD Baby, Pandora, everybody gets the material at the same time. I send it to one person, and it goes in 100 different directions. You see, because that one entity takes a little piece of that every time I sell something out there. This is the core distributor. So TikTok is on that list. So when everybody else gets it, TikTok does too. But now, when TikTok has that, it's considered to be a copywritten list of music. And then when I replay it on a live, if I play it longer than 60 seconds, they might think that's a copyright violation and restrict your reach. So that's why you're able to use my music in your videos now, because TikTok approves of that for 60 seconds. You'll notice you can't use any more than 60 seconds. So there's a lot of moving parts to that, and I'm sorry to drag you into all that explanation. Yes, Amazon as well. So I'd like to figure out a way to encourage people to use my music in their projects when they're doing things like you're doing, where they can have even more than being restricted to certain things. And my mind is very much on that, because when people with beautiful visions like you, like so many of you have shared my music in so many different ways, that's powerful stuff. That means more people are hearing it and more people are seeing it. Yeah, I know. I wish I could. I can tell, and I see when that kind of energy is energy I like to meet all the way, not just halfway. I want to find ways to deliver that, because sharing is a powerful thing. And no, I mean, if somebody was making a motion picture or something, an independent film, then that moves into a different realm. If someone's creating an advertising segment for some product, yes, that is a completely different realm, right? But, I guess if I were a IT guy working for a giant social network or something, I would say that have different opinions about all these things, but I'm trying to link what I know and I've learned about being an artist and totally embracing in my Gen X fashion what is happening right now to the most of my ability. That's it, Usually you don't see somebody doing this way. The reason I'm able to mix and master like this is because I have done it for so long. And again, this bottom-up process puts me into a position when I hand a mixing engineer or a mastering engineer my stems, they're 100 convinced that it's already professionally mixed in so many different ways. And what they do is pick and preen certain things they don't like. Oh, your drums are too this, let's just do that. And they're moving stuff like that much. You'd have to listen to the before, the after, the before, the after, the before, the after, and say, oh yeah, I can tell now. These things get, intensely minute. Are you loading any over there? All the music that is 95% of the music that is on my TikTok is on YouTube as well. You just have to search for the track name. I'm pretty sure. So I just don't know if it's in a fashion. You would probably have to rip it and add it to your video, and which is kind of moving in the direction of what Violet's talking about. How could I do things like, so I mean, there's of course a system of reciprocity there where you say, you know, this music was created by JACE VEK. You can hear him here. You can, you know, a couple of links. Good stuff. You know what I mean? And I know you do that. That's not even questioning, you know, that. So it's a very Gen X thing. Well, I was always on the tip of the spear doing things, trying to do things that I couldn't do. You know, Liz, I was having a conversation. It really kind of sums up something weird about my personality, I guess, that in a very vivid way, albeit an analogy. One of my first memories I have, you know, of my childhood, and my family would still laugh about it if they were still here to this day, about what they saw that day, is when they took me, you know, when we went into town when I was a kid. It was such a big deal because we lived out in the countryside, so I would get so excited. Oh, we're going to town. And I got to go to Holiday Inn to go swim. You could pay a fee, and they had a nice indoor pool there at this Holiday Inn. At the time, way back then, the place was actually very nice because it was brand new. It had this big Olympic-sized indoor pool. So I had never been to a swimming pool like that. I knew what a swimming pool was. I was really excited about it. So, you know, this is like I couldn't even sleep the night before. We get to the Holiday Inn. I got my swim trunks on, and I'm walking over to the pool, and I walked right over to the deep end, and I laughed, and I jumped in. Like, it's not a good idea if you don't know how to swim and you're a kid. Of course, you know, 6 members of my family splash, 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 yanking me up out of there, right? In about 2 seconds. Yeah, Astropod, you know what I'm talking about. Holiday Inn with the swimming pool. Did you go there when you were a kid? And they pulled me out, and I was sputtering, coughing water, and I was stomping my feet, and I was crying. You know, I was really crying. But, you know, it wasn't because I was afraid. It was because I was humiliated and upset that I couldn't swim. I thought that I could swim just by jumping in the water. And that has been the mentality that lives in my subconscious mind, is that I don't know if I can do something until I try. And it will lead me down the road to many failures in this life. But as a consequence, it has led me down the road to places that I never thought I would be able to get to, because things were so technically beyond my capabilities, you know, to be just impossible at the time. But because I adopt this mentality of just do it, it's always been my first kiss was at the pool as well. Aw. Yeah, that was quite a little social scene, I suppose. High school. If you haven't picked up on it, Astropoet and I might know each other. To be fair, you didn't know you couldn't play the piano when you started. Yeah. You know, I just do things, and some things I can, some things I can't, but if I can get a piece of something, I can learn, you know. And I had a lot of help doing this at the right points in my life. When I needed a little bit of information, the right people came along. You see, back when I started doing this wasn't a digital world of how-to manuals. I mean, you go on YouTube and you can type how-to, and then whatever it is, you're even thinking about doing. And somebody will put the tools out on the table and they'll have on a screen. Step 1, open hood of car. Step 2, remove these 65 bolts, and they take the carburetor off one bolt at a time, and they show you how to change upgrade a car from this to this, or wrap a car in new paint wrap that they use, or how to put decals on, how to tattoo, how to design things, how to do a better floral arrangement, how to change tire on a car if you're that far gone. So now when you look up mixing and mastering and music creation, that's basically a world of a multi-million-dollar business is presenting information and sharing information. There's people out there doing very well doing it. Did you guys grow up together? Cat's out of the bag now, Astropod. Now this is the point where I wait with bated breath, thinking to myself, how far is this story going to go? Anywho, back to music production. See, when you listen to... What's going on over here? Oh, the tea. Where's tea? Awesome sauce. When you listen to how flatlined this part of this mix is, just when you listen closely, and again, headphones are your best friend when you're listening to me do these sessions. These minute discrepancies sometimes I'm talking about through a smartphone speakers, like, trying to tell whether the moon's a million miles away or 1,000,001. You can't tell the difference. And when you go over here and you listen to the expressivity that's traveling through here with the help of quality relationships being established. Or here. So what's the... Spill it. No, that's personal. Oh. That's because she's listening to the music. That's why she got quiet. Have you ever traveled 101 Redwood Forest? Yes, I have. Pauline. It's beautiful. Yes, I have. Hi, Lisa. Great. I hope the chat room only goes up so far for new arrivals. All right, let me see here. What's next? So, okay, I'm going to set myself up now to just take a look at a couple of these. I'm controlling the volume energy that is coming through that trumpet line right there. And I'm using that volume line to force the expressivity that is already in the line. So I put all that effort and energy into getting that trumpet to go da like that. And that's kind of and if I wanted to, and usually what I do, and I did with this, is I'll show you what happens when you make that all that much more. Oh, let me move my head. Darn it. There. When I make these even more dramatic, watch. When I do this, I'm pulling the volume down. See that? I'm pulling the volume down. I'm pulling it down. So it's going ba da da da. Okay, that's a little unnatural now, but I did it that way to emphasize the point. So then we go back to something a little bit more subtle. There you go. See how that works? And then when I re-add it to the mix, now I want you to listen to something. Watch this. Okay, now the trumpet comes in and then it ducks down out of the way here where my red line is, or my white line is on the screen. When you see this white line moving back and forth, I'm talking about what the white line, we're listening to where the white line is. Now, watch this. When this white line goes from left to right, you'll hear that trumpet duck. Watch. Now, the reason that's doing that is because I want you to hear what the strings are doing. What are the strings doing? Well, let's see. We're making a trade here is what we're doing. Okay, now let's see what the strings are doing. Let me mark this region here so I don't get lost. Here we go. What are the strings doing? Hang on. Let me open it up. That cello is saying da 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 da. Watch. So when I bring it all back together again and I tell you that trumpet is ducking, it's getting down out of the way. So now watch what happens. We're trading one energy for another inside of there. Lisa, spill it. Just joking. Thank you. Thank you very much. Strings us along. No pun intended. What do you say, Marte? How you doing, buddy? See what we got over here in the chat room, Rooney. Rooney. How many people's in here? Hello? 12. My besties. My TikTok golden hour family. The best. Can't wait to finish this for y'all. So what has to happen now? Okay, it's not that bad. I've got to finish the automation out to the end of part 2 for every line. I would say one of these can take as long as 5 minutes to do to get out to the end. So there's probably, because I have to get this as close to correct as I can the first time, because I'm not going to be changing things around. I like what the piece is doing, and all I have to do is bring it out now with good solid volume automation. So I need to get that finished today, right? Then I need to level it all off one more time. That means just the total volume level, how loud it is. And make sure that the volume is telling the story up here. If this is where the main theme comes in, up at the top here, this big white chunk at the top of the screen, and it's not as loud as the opening, ooh, something's wrong. Of course, we're not even close to doing that, but this gives you an idea of how important it is to control the overall perceived intensity of the track to suit the outcome of creating finished music. So, all right, everyone. Did you have a good time today? Because JC's got to get back to work here. I got to hit the afterburners now. I really, really do. Yeah, we had a lot of people in the chat room. But again, here's the thing, Jenny. When people like that are only staying on an average of 3.5 seconds, where they will benefit from learning about me the best is in my content. I think the content feeds. Having content, consistent, constant content on your TikTok that is both all kinds of things about life and music as well, is what helps consistently build a familiarity with people to the point where they want to see what your music is about. It's not even a question of music being good enough. It's that attention spans on a situation like this are about 2.5 seconds, so people have to be given least to freely come across stuff as they do. And I don't have high expectations for randos on a talk show feed where I'm just kind of sitting out in the sunshine getting some sunshine, because I'm not dancing around my kitchen cooking pancakes in a thong, or trying to see how far I can sling something, or some silly game or whatever else. These are kind of some of the things I've seen on TikTok that seem to get attention. Why not? Oh, I'm not putting you down. I love your content. No, don't think that. That's not what I'm talking about. I love fun personal content. That's the best. One of my favorite shows is the Igloo Show. And I'm not kidding. Lisa's got an Igloo Show. It's fantastic. And if you want to hear some good poetry, go see Astropoet and listen to her reading her poems. Take a look at the beautiful videos that Violet makes on her site. Everybody is having fun, and I love that. That's why I follow most of you. And if I don't follow you, you should send me a message saying, hey, Jace. Because I think I've followed pretty much most of the people who are in this Golden Hour family. Sometimes I have a problem not being able to find someone off of this feed when I put their name in the search engine. It's weird. It's another TikTok thing, I guess. Is there any other way to cook? Pauline says, oh, it's ridiculous. Well, different strokes for different folks, I guess. And hey, there's more I could say. I have a very, I use sarcasm as a humorous sarcasm as a way of dealing things that sometimes can be a little rough around the edges in life. And there's some things I could say about some of the things I've seen that kind of, but there's a fine line between doing that and just being better off just focusing on getting this track finished or something. I don't know. I'm doing the best I can. Let's just put it that way. Please don't cook bacon like that. You guys are great. Well, I hope you're pleased with what you hear. I hope you see how dedicated I am to getting these tracks out one per week. Yeah. I'm probably going to take a break from this for a half hour or so to refresh my ears, and I'm going to work on something else. I need to go back to Thursday of last week's Golden Hour and pull that excerpt of Gaia out of last week's show because there was something special happening there. And, well, you know, one person's sarcasm is another person's insult, and sometimes I get a little too freely giving with my humorous crack of the whip, as people will tell me, and I've reeled it in a little bit. Depends on who I'm dealing with, I guess you could say. You know, if you've ever seen some of my clapback videos and my content, you could probably understand this whole stage that's set here for this conversation a little bit better on my main account, that is. Right? Yeah. You know it. All right, let's see what's happening today. Today, yes, jokes are different than being sarcasm. Well, there's a line of interpretation there where some people are going to disagree where that line is, and that's just the part that makes it, even more interesting. But I want to thank everybody for stopping by today. I've got some more work to do, and I'm going to do it. I will be happily back today at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Mountain, 6 p.m. Pacific. Might want to think about following me, subscribing, I guess is the right word to me, over on the YT, because I'm going to be messing around over there in the days to come, and it's going to be completely random. So, for now. All right, well. Who's coming to Golden Hour tonight? Everybody, some of you going to be able to make it? Yeah, right, Jenny. Me. Hey, Michelle, how you doing? DGD, okay. Thanks, Violet. Marty, okay. Heather, all right. Connie. Liz. Would not miss it. Fantastic. Okay. Okay, but will it be short sessions? I'm on YT, probably hour long. That moments, just to get things up and running. Because for me to configure that over there's a whole volley of click this, move that, create this scene, make that scene. I'm going to completely reorchestrate my scenes that I use to pull this off. Because this way we're this way, and over there it's that way. Horizontal landscape versus vertical, aka portrait. So, all right, everyone, I gotta go. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day, everybody. Celebrate something good. See you soon.